Just got a new puppy or kitten? Congrats! But also, yikes. Between crates, beds, toys, treats, and those first few vet visits, you've probably already dropped a small fortune, which is where Lemonade Pet Insurance comes in. It helps cover vet costs so you can focus on what's best for your new pet. The coverage is customizable, sign-up is quick and easy, and your claims are handled in as little as 3 seconds. Pro tip, Lemonade offers a package specifically for puppies and kittens. Get a quote at lemonade.com/pet. Your future self will thank you. Your pet won't. They don't know what insurance is.
And now it's time for No Pucks Given with Dan Kingerski of Pittsburgh Hockey Now. Penguin scoops, locker room buzz, and straight-up analysis. No fluff, all hockey. Now, here's Dan.
I am Dan Kingerski on the Pittsburgh Hockey Now platforms. Is that going to drive you nuts? It's driving me nuts, the light flickering. So I appreciate you all showing up here. The last couple of weeks have been absolute trash as we've attempted these live chats, and everything has gone wrong from the software StreamYard just completely pooing the bed. You know, it doesn't like 5G, even though it says it works on 5G. And technical difficulty, so on and so forth. So here is what we're going to kind of dive into. And I'm going to both walk a tightrope because it's 4 games in the NHL season, right? It's not exactly like we're talking we're 60 games in and things are, or the cement has dried in any one direction. Having said that, it seems to me that there are a couple of mistakes the Penguins are dealing with. Last night, I did not grade the Penguins very well. Once again, I thought they had a pretty good first period. But then I didn't like most of the rest of their game. They settled back in the third period until poor Parker Wotherspoon's penalty there with $1:34 to go. That was just bad luck. He was kicking himself as hard as anybody possibly could. If you think that Parker might be one of those players who says, well, it's a mistake, it happens, you have to move on. Nah, he was absolutely kicking himself. So, first of all, you can see the video on the Pittsburgh Hockey Now YouTube page. But otherwise, it's the Penguins are still very much an incomplete casserole. I look at other teams in the same situation, and they're not as incomplete. I look at the Philadelphia Flyers, Rick Tocchet coming in. Doesn't have to deal with 69 players on the roster. So we're going to kind of get into this mistake, I think, or mistakes, plural, that I think Kyle Dubas has made to start the season. I'm also reticent to criticize Dubas because I think he's also made some really great moves, some fantastic drafting over the last couple of years, without question, that the Penguins have drafted well in the last couple of years. So I have to temper any criticism with some praise to really bring you a true performance. We're going to talk about Dan Muse's system and why it should be perfect for the Penguins, but maybe why it's not right now. That goes part and parcel to Dubas, who he did what he did for the training camp roster, 69 players, way too many. And also some of the players that Dubas brought in and kept. There were some mistakes there, which I think is hindering Dan Muse. Plus, of course, your questions. I'm sure you'll bring up the goaltending. I'm sure you'll bring up a couple of the scapegoats, so to speak. I already know the Caleb Jones questions are coming. I already know I know what else is coming. But it's your privilege. It's your right to fire away. Drop those in the comments, and we will get to them. So let me begin here on the No Pucks Given live chat. with, let's go deeper into the training camp. Because think back to this. Dan Muse had to spend most of the first 2 weeks. He wasn't installing systems and working on nuance. He was doing battle drills and competition to shake out who would stay and who would go. That was just he was enjoying it. I love competition, was his quote with a big smile on his face. And for good reason. It raised the energy and level of training camp. But now the Penguins are paying for that. It could have been accomplished with less volume, without question. The Penguins you see over the last 2 games, as the Rangers begin to dial in, I mean, they're having problems, but they're dialing in. Let me see if I can fix that. And the Ducks. Boy, the Ducks are fast. I thought the Penguins were a fast team. I don't know if you could see it on television. I had to, we for the fourth straight game, there were no replays. There were no, I love Pittsburgh because the television broadcast is about 15 seconds behind live play. That wasn't the case in Anaheim, so I had to, watch it on my laptop for any replays, and it was a minute and a half behind. So that just becomes way too difficult. The reason I bring that up is there are some micro plays that I want to take a second look at real quick in the moment to see if I think, which player was the recipient or the driver of it, but also if I saw that exactly the way I thought I saw it. That confirmation or sometimes correction is very important. So we had the West Coast broadcast last night with, obviously their replays are from a Ducks point of view, but it was in real time too, so there was no delay. Anaheim is so fast. I don't know if you could see it on the Pittsburgh broadcast. There would be an open player, wide open, and Anaheim closed that gap so quickly that oftentimes they filled the lane or the spot before the puck got there. And there were numerous instances, and I nudged Josh Yohe, who was sitting to my right in the press box. Did you see that? Did you see? He's like, he started going, just how quick Anaheim is. They might be the Cinderella of the Western Conference this year. They're pretty good, or they will be pretty good in short order. But the Penguins, to their discredit, haven't been able to dial in that structured systems game yet. Sidney Crosby thought they played really well last night. He's like, yeah, we have to start turning it into wins, though. Fair enough. He was a little salty last night. He was angry, was Sidney Crosby. I suspect I understand why. He got, he was given a phantom penalty. They score a power play goal. Now, this is all part and parcel to the training camp issue, the roster decisions. This is all, and I'm maybe talking a little bit too freeform, because Anaheim's power play was much better than the Penguins' penalty kill. Did you notice where the Penguins' PK was? All 4 were well below the dots, and not because Anaheim wasn't just waiting out the blue line. Anaheim was caving them in. Anaheim's 5-on-4 power play shrunk the zone to about 30 feet. Dangerous passes, zipping all around, blasts from the point, and really they were getting the back door wide open. Mikael Granlund missed a pair of empty nets. One, he kind of fanned and it went parallel to the net. The other one, he kind of missed as well. He had 3 or 4 feet of net, and he hit Tristan Jarry kind of because it was going wide as well. Maybe it's just the black and gold that messes with Granlund. But that doesn't speak to bad coaching. It speaks to lack of time. Time that was weird. I wanted to see if there was any audio issues. And no one's complaining about the audio yet, so I'm going to assume it's okay. But anyway, the Penguins PK is just one. It's emblematic of the lack of preparation time, the lack of training camp time that the team was able to spend on these things. It's kind of I'm a little disappointed for Dan Muse that he spent so many weeks just having, going through the competition, only for Kyle Dubas really to kind of keep the people we expected him to keep, perhaps at the expense of better players. And I'm going to, I'm writing a column. I didn't finish it in time. Listen, I needed some sleep. I didn't get back to the hotel room until 4 a.m. Eastern time. So it was 1 a.m. Pacific time. I get a couple, 2.5 hours of sleep. I knock out the daily and I go to write the column and my mind is just like, no. So I rolled over, grabbed the covers and got an extra hour of sleep. I didn't finish the column in time and I apologize. It's I was standing beside the Penguins practice goalie last night. He was getting tea. I was getting my third or fourth coffee. And I was, like, you on West Coast time yet? He's like, nope, I'm on East. And he's drinking tea. I'm drinking coffee. We're getting there. But it all kind of, the roster is a bit disappointing because, down in Wilkes-Barre, and I know you're going to bring up the Ville Koivunen issue, which you should. Tristan Brose and Avery Hayes and Owen Pickering should be on the NHL team. In fact, Robbie Fabry should be on the NHL team. If you're going to send Avery Hayes and Tristan Brose down, Robbie Fabry should have been there on the team. And the two games in which Ben Kindle has anchored the third line with Tommy Novak and Philip Tomasino have been borderline disaster. Just disastrous with very little scoring chance, very little offensive zone time, because you have a pair of wingers who don't win puck battles, who aren't good at that phase of the game. One on a line, you can do. If they'll get between the dots and rip a few good shots and all of that, you can have one. You can't have two. And so Ben Kindle is kind of left without the puck, left to defend and scrap for what offense he can, and he's good enough that actually they had a few chances on Tuesday. I had to think of what day it was. But this is all sort of the malaise, mess that could have been avoided with a more streamlined, direct training camp. I don't think Dan Muse was put into a position to succeed from the hop. And I don't think the Penguins are going to stack a lot of wins over the next 2 months because they're playing catch up. Once they get the system dialed in, then they're going to have to get the personnel dialed in. I don't think they have the right personnel. Now, they always play well against LA. They always, because LA plays a 1-1-3, just like the Penguins are going to play. But LA plays it slower, trappy, kind of defensive way, while the Penguins are going to attack. And I've talked to a couple of former LA Kings about that. And yeah, there's a reason the Penguins always kind of play well, especially here in LA. Last year they really played one of their best games of the season when they took it to the Kings, because the Kings were trying to play it slow and conservative, and the Penguins were able to break through that bulkhead and get after them. I expect the same thing on Thursday, but I don't expect that same thing to happen a lot for the rest, the next couple of months, because other teams are playing fast and other teams are now a step ahead of the Penguins. The Rangers were clearly a step ahead of the Penguins in terms of getting comfortable and dialed into this season. That I think these are Kyle Dubas's mistakes. I lost all of my images that I had loaded up. I mean, I had some good ones. I had Kyle Dubas. I should have put him on this screen here, so you don't have to look at me. Dun, dun, dun. Give me a moment here, because for whatever reason, the software reset and it kicked me out there for a few seconds. Let's talk about the rookies, Harrison Brunick and, in fact, Ben Kindle. Obviously, I know a lot of people were like, wait, what's going on? Last night, when Harrison Brunick was scratched. Let me, I'll get Kindle on the screen here in just a moment. Okay, there's Brunick. There's Harrison Brunick in practice. I can't tell you where his ceiling is at the moment. I don't know if his ceiling is like top pairing notable defenseman who provides 50, 60 points per season, or if he's that second, third pairing guy who packs on, 40, 50 points, but isn't necessarily relied upon for defense. He could go Alex Goligoski, he could go Tyson Barrie, he could go, I don't know, Shea Theodore. He really could go in so many different directions, and I don't know where his ceiling is. I suppose maybe he doesn't either. That's part of this journey, is finding it, and then once you find it, pushing through it, or making a lot of money. Either way, it works both ways for players. I have liked what I've seen from Brunick. Oh, yeah, there have been mistakes. Most of his mistakes have been of those very rookie green bananas sort of way, where he holds onto the puck too long or tries to do too much with it. Only once have I seen Brunick in the wrong spot, and that was the home opener. He made a mistake and he compounded it by chasing the puck instead of getting back to position, and it cost the Penguins. But that stuff's going to happen. I don't think you care about it. Let me rephrase that. I don't think you get mad at that. I think you understand that's part of the process. What was interesting last night, and let me pull up the quote from Dan Muse, because he regripped in the middle of a quote talking about Harrison Brunick. And where is it? There it is. The Penguins scratches. You saw this story last evening. And you know what? I should share the screen with you. Let me do that, so you can see the quote as I see the quote. There's the quote that caught my attention. We'll bring the same thing, it can be said for Ben Kindle. They're going to sit these guys out on scheduled intervals to keep them fresh, to make sure they're strong, because neither are physically mature yet. I mean, they're 18 and 19 years old. As in good of shape as they are, they still have filling out to do. Unfortunately, as I'm learning, filling out doesn't stop. You keep filling. Somewhere it doesn't become filling out, it just becomes lots of filling. But anyway, we'll bring the same. These are young players. We're looking at what's best for them now, but for them to continue to grow throughout the course of the season. And here's where I took my eyebrows raised. And so there will be times throughout the year or throughout the start where they're coming out of the lineup, and this is all part of the plan. Now, there are a couple of ways to take this, kids, and I don't mean to that was a Freudian slip by Muse, in so much as the Penguins are considering that 9-game limit for one or both.
Just got a new puppy or kitten? Congrats! But also, yikes. Between crates, beds, toys, treats, and those first few vet visits, you've probably already dropped a small fortune, which is where Lemonade Pet Insurance comes in. It helps cover vet costs so you can focus on what's best for your new pet. The coverage is customizable, sign-up is quick and easy, and your claims are handled in as little as 3 seconds. Pro tip, Lemonade offers a package specifically for puppies and kittens. Get a quote at lemonade.com/pet. Your future self will thank you. Your pet won't. They don't know what insurance is.
I think that would be a mistake. Horrible mistake. Awful mistake. I took Muse's comments to mean that 9-game was on the table. Not the other way to take that would be, okay, once they get through the start and get into the grind of the season, we can sort of, drop the plan. It's up to you how you decipher that. Because I think Kindle has been smart. He's been sharp. He's been all over the ice. I don't see a reason for him to sit, but I suppose they might in the next couple of games. If there would be a game to sit, it would be against LA. That's kind of big and heavy and way too structured. But also, if you sit Ben Kindle, does that mean Nola Chari plays center? Does that mean Ricard Raquel plays center? I don't think either of those are better options than Kindle. All right, let's get to the questions. I see them backing up here. I've talked now for 22 minutes, all me. Let's go to the Driz. How long before they have the Letang conversation? He's not a top 4, maybe not a top 6 anymore. Driz, I think you're on the path. I'm not going to argue that Letang has not been good this season. He was kind of brutal on Tuesday night against Anaheim. He was only scored with 1 turnover. But there were a lot of change of possession Chris Letang plays. So, yeah, I 4 games is too soon. We're talking months before those conversations begin to occur. You let a star player work his way out of it. You let him work. The only way you would expedite that process conversation is if you feel the player is not listening or being obstinate or, needs a message. I probably wouldn't put Letang. I wouldn't expect Chris Letang to be that way at this point in his career, but I suppose all the Penguins stars were that at some point in their youth. I mean, they were a petulant bunch there for a while. I don't think I keep waiting for Letang to improve, but the second half of last year, he really struggled. Obviously, he had surgery to fix a small hole in his heart. I tended to chalk up his second half performance to those health issues. The start of this season, however, hasn't been any better, which does raise the question, Driz, that you're asking, is it age? I suppose the only thing we can do is wait and see. That's really all. If he doesn't improve, I think that becomes a real question. go to Matthew. Which Letang conversation? Trade, scratching him, or buyout at season's end? Matthew. Have I taught you nothing, Matthew? Have I imparted no knowledge to a lot of you? You really can't buy out Chris Letang. Why, you ask? Simple. He has a 35-plus contract. Also, he could block a buyout up until let me retract that sentence. I'm not sure if a player with a no movement clause can block a buyout. I don't know. But either way, if the Penguins were to buy out Chris Letang at any point, they are on the hook for 100% salary cap hit of his salary. Zero savings. It's a 35-plus contract. And this is where Ron Hextall really screwed up. Maybe you saw the story late last week where Brian Burke was talking about Evgeny Malkin and Letang having to take pay cuts to stay with the team. I think his memory was a little bit fuzzy because he said both were very easy to work with. I don't remember it that way whatsoever, especially Malkin, who went to not just the 11th hour, but like the 11th hour and 59 minutes before he signed a deal. What Hextall did, he got term. He gave them more years in order to give them the dollar amount that they wanted. Okay. He gave them no movement clauses. I mean, okay. But then he also gave them signing bonuses to front load the contract. That's the part that has never made sense. Because by doing that, the contracts became 35-plus deals, which are essentially ironclad. You don't get out of that unless the player can very easily prove that they belong on long-term injured reserve. And now, it even changed the LTIR rules so the Penguins wouldn't get $6 million. They'd get $3.5 million out of Letang if they were able to put him on LTIR, which if he's playing, wanting to play every night, it would be a pretty tough sell to the NHL to say, well, he's injured. He's not. So zero savings to a buyout. And if you want to know the truth of a Chris Letang trade, that's not going to happen either because no team is going to saddle themselves with the level of play he's currently at that salary cap hit, at that sort of entanglement contractually. Those three things combine to make him untradeable. So you're literally left with scratching. And I don't think that's going to happen for some time, if ever, but certainly not sometime. Don't forget the Dan Muse factor here. Letang is part of the championship core. He's part of the, he's one of the pillars of the organization, of the team. And for a rookie coach to wade into those waters, a rookie coach risks upsetting a lot of players when you do that. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe Kyle Dubas and Dan Muse want to upset some players down the road. Maybe they want to kind of upset Evgeny Malkin or Sidney Crosby or, Brian Rust or, maybe they want to upset that core. But I don't think that's usually a good strategy. Coach can get himself in trouble with his team and lose the room pretty quickly with moves like that. Nope, didn't forget about the stream. Just was trying to fix the light and the microphone and blah, blah, blah. Brian, 2015. How many fans are jumping off the bandwagon right now? Yes, there is triage set up with broken ankles and legs. No question about it. Alex stayed up until 12 a.m. just to see a PK goal scored against in the first 12 seconds on said PK. Actually, it was 7. That game winner was 7 seconds after poor Parker's over the glass. I appreciate you stayed up anyway. See, Joel, do you think that there are any young defenders who could make a move up to the NHL roster to help shoulder some load from Letang and give Carlson some room to focus on shooting? I'm not sure I understand the whole Carlson part of that question, but what do you mean focus on shooting? When he's on the ice, he should be playing with the puck. He should be, driving play, getting the puck to the net and shooting and all of that. I also think Wotherspoon has been a great addition beside Carlson. Absolutely great. He has balanced him well. He's been physical near the net. He's moving the puck well. He's even jumping into the play every now and then. While it's judicious, I think he's played really well. Kind of makes you put Matt Grzelcyk in perspective. We all thought, hey, well, Grzelcyk's not bad. Wotherspoon is a different level. But there's only one defenseman in the AHL, and that's Owen Pickering. I thought Pickering was steady Eddie, quiet in preseason. I suppose they wanted more from him. Now, the two defensemen to help shoulder some load from Chris Letang would be Matt Dumba. Dumba had a rough start Tuesday. He was bad the first period. He settled down. Connor Clifton, again, hit everything that moved. The Penguins had, 16 hits, and Clifton had 8 of them. He made a couple of mistakes. Connor Clifton, take this to the bank, is the second coming of Darius Kasparaitis. He's a little helter-skelter, very physical, not a heavyweight, but he just hits everything. And he takes pride in playing that way. Dumba and Clifton are both right-handed, which I'm a big fan of the right-left combo, left-right combo. Dan Muse has downplayed that from the beginning. I think the Penguins would be wise to have another left-hander, 3 left-handers in the lineup, 3 righties. That would be my, and I think it's possible with Pickering coming up, or if Caleb Jones sort of settles into his game. Obviously, most nights, that guy, Harrison Brunick, should be the third pairing right side guy. Has the sound gone away? I'm getting a notice on my screen that internet is pooey. StreamYard is terrible. It really is. Cal66 making his triumphant return to Pittsburgh Hockey Now, commenting, this team is more fun to watch than last year's version. Infinitely more fun to watch. No question about that. Jim Hallis. I thought it was playing an older, injured player over any younger and or healthier player. Letang shouldn't have played. Jim, I'm not going to pick on you. I'm going to kind of pick on the Penguins fan base who haven't heard me the 8 billion times that I've tried to explain this. Every hockey coach, every team, you pay respect to the veteran. If the veteran says, I can go, and the doctor nods in agreement, the guy goes. That's the hierarchy of hockey. Dan Muse didn't invent it. Mike Sullivan didn't invent it. This is one of those cases where and this is not criticism, this is just kind of a statement. American hockey fans are provincial. Canadian fans, they know everything going on with all 7 Canadian teams and most of the American teams too. They know, because while we're watching Sports Center and getting NFL highlights shoved down our gullet, they're watching TS or Sports and getting hockey highlights, but they're also getting hockey conversation. And to that point, I think American fans see their team sort of in a bubble, where, as Jim points out, well, it's not Sullivan now, it's Muse as well, playing this veteran who's banged up over Connor Clifton or Matt Dumba, so on and so forth. Every coach. Listen, it's that's hockey culture. Is it right? No, you make a very good point that if Letang is that banged up where he's 80 or 90%, it should be okay to sit him an extra couple of games. And maybe you play Matt Dumba on the left side with Harrison Brunick, and Connor Clifton draws into the lineup when with Caleb Jones or whatever. Although Jones and Clifton were brutal in their one preseason game. Like, I'm talking absolutely terrible together. Let's go back to the Driz. Volume, I assume in prospects, was the key to quicker rebuild. By my account, there are 13 guys on the big club, not including Danton Heinen and Ryan Graves, who are available via trade or not going to be here next year via free agents. Yeah, I mean, this team is definitely set up to have a lot of turnover. Jim goes back. Anthony Mantha, Crickets. Tristan Brose should join Gino and Brazeau. Jim, your thinking on paper is correct. Your thinking in reality isn't, and here's why. Tristan Brose is a center. He's one of those rare breed who are very good at center, for whatever reason, not very good on the wing. I don't know why. Tristan Brose's collegiate career was kind of flagging 2 years ago. His senior year with Denver, I guess it was his junior year with Denver, his last year in college, he was on the wing. He was a fourth-line winger coming in and out of the lineup. Denver sustained some injuries. He has to play center. Before a minute goes by, he's their top center. And 2 minutes later, he's their legit top-line center, filling the net and playing great. And we've published articles on this on Pittsburgh Hockey Now, and talking with Jason Spezza, the GM of the Wilkes-Barre Penguins, assistant GM, and so forth. And it's just generally accepted that Tristan Brose, his game is unlocked when he plays center. So as much as I know some of you are like, well, bring up Brose and put him on the wing, doesn't work that way, at least with Tristan Brose. Let me get to the next questions here. Has Jari always been this bad moving side to side? It was never a strength, but I thought he was average. But the past couple of seasons, he's been truly horrible moving across his. I don't remember what I had for lunch yesterday. So ask me about Tristan Jarry's performance 3 years ago. I will say, in preseason and even last night, I see what you are seeing, where Jarry looks awkward with the lateral movements. He's upright. I don't know if he's trying a new technique. He just hasn't looked smooth and comfortable in net. Not even a little bit. He has looked awkward. Beyond that, we'll have to get a goalie expert to really tell us. That's the one position. Like, head coaches are like, nope, don't ask me goalie questions. Did they stop the puck? Yes. Were they stopping the puck and controlling rebounds? Yes or no? That's all I know. And the goalie coach fills in all of the other sort of details. Michael, we need to drop Achari, Hayes, and Dumba somehow to call back Ville Koivunen and Owen Pickering. Kevin Hayes is on IR. I suspect he'll be coming off IR this week. He joined the team for practice on Monday in Anaheim. Full gear. I honestly don't see a place for him on the team if Ben Kindle is there. That becomes an incredibly important decision, does it not? Can you imagine a moment wherein the Penguins return Ben Kindle to juniors to keep Kevin Hayes? I dare say that the city of Pittsburgh would not need construction crews around PPG Paints Arena because many of you would go on the Fifth Avenue and do some damage. I'm not advocating it. Don't do that. Don't be it. But in fact, actually, maybe I could see some of you staying home. I could see some of you tuning out in disgust. I could see, in realistic terms, instead of me exaggerating, I could see you being really angry if something like that happened, but it could. Joel acknowledges my sleep. Yeah, it's only not even 11 o'clock here. So I'm going to go to lunch. I might even go to the beach. Who am I kidding? I'm going to write another article. Jim is liking the new coach. Is there a full plan? Or is Muse and staff still making it up as they go? By plan, I'm not sure what you mean by that. The Harrison Brunick-Ben Kindle plan was born of Kyle Dubas and Rich Rotenberg. Rotenberg didn't get any press when he was hired. But he is the former Toronto Maple Leafs director of high performance. With the Penguins, he left Toronto on July 4th. That's the day he resigned Toronto. I'm not sure what day he started with the Penguins. But he's definitely a Dubas guy. Dubas is just slowly rebuilding his Maple Leaf staff as, at least the ones he wanted. Rich Kloon, through Wes Clark, Jason Spezza, and Rotenberg. But this, the scratching youngsters was a plan that Rotenberg and came up with based on past experience. Side note, by the way, Easton Cowan had a great game for the Maple Leafs last night. He is a Wes Clark guy. He follows other Wes Clark draft picks. Fraser Minton, Matthew Nyes. I mean, they have just been hitting home runs, draft after draft after draft for the last 5 years up in Toronto. And they're all Wes Clark guys. Easton Cowan doesn't count as a Dubas guy. But they really have they've done well drafting. If you look, Harrison Brunick, Ben Kindle, so have the Penguins. Heck, maybe they've done well with Tanner Howe. We have no idea to know. Kindle, Avery Hayes, and Ville Koivunen is the line. Well, yeah, actually, that was a great line in preseason. Kindle in the middle, Hayes fishing out pucks, Koivunen providing some extra skill and things he can do. Love that line. Joe chimes in, no contact Novak. He has been scored with some hits, But between he and Tomasino, they don't play between the dots. They really just, that is a part of their game that they are desperately working on. But it's not happening very quickly, and I think it's to Ben Kindle's detriment. I wouldn't keep that line together more than a hot second. Let's get to Pittsburgh fan Patrick C. Is there really a bandwagon right now? I will cheer them on still, even though they've lost 2 in a row. Might not watch much of the 10 p.m. games, but we'll watch many of the others. Well, if you don't watch the games, Patrick, I expect you to read Pittsburgh Hockey Now. All right, let's go to Negative Pressure Productions. I was a fan of Tomasino. I'm assuming that past tense is what I'm supposed to pick up on. Let's go to Guy Lafleur, 10. Novak is not good at all. Third line in the future. McGroarty, Kindle, and Rust. Slide Koivunen in at first line. I think you've got some good ideas there, Guy. Koivunen, of course, did not have 2 good games to start the season with Sidney Crosby. So maybe temper that part. Maybe it's McGroarty that plays with Crosby and Raquel. Listen, the way Mantha, Malkin, and Brazeau are playing. And by the way, they gave up a goal last night that was purely just it was the goal at the end of the first period. I'm trying to remember who snapped the one-timer. I forget which Duck snapped the one-timer from the right circle. But Dan Muse made a mistake. He loaded up his ice with the star players, at least the star defenseman, because it was an offensive zone.
If you're an experienced pet owner, you already know that having a pet is 25% belly rubs, 25% yelling, drop it, and 50% groaning at the bill from every pet visit. Which is why Lemonade Pet Insurance is tailor-made for your pet and can save you up to 90% on vet bills. It can help cover checkups, emergencies, diagnostics, basically all the stuff that makes your bank account get nervous. Claims are filed super easily through the Lemonade app, and half get settled instantly. Get a quote at lemonade.com/pet, and they'll help cover the vet bill for whatever your pet swallowed after you yelled, drop it.
Draw with, 45 seconds to go. So he's got Letang and Carlson on the ice together. And he's got them with the Malkin line. Yeah, that is absolutely danger. Danger, Will Robinson, danger. Because Penguins lose the faceoff. The Ducks transition. Carlson gets back to play the puck, taps it ahead to Letang, who loses it very easily. I thought Letang needed to be a lot harder on that puck, stronger to keep possession. Okay, so it happens. Ducks, keep it at the blue line, and that line's defensive prowess absolutely just goes into the dumper. Anthony Mantha at the top of the zone loops. You ever hear hockey players say never loop? He looped. And loop, instead of stopping, if he stops in the passing lane, and there's no way for that cross-ice pass to happen, but he loops. And in that half second of a loop, there's now a giant lane. And the puck goes from blue line to circle, right where Mantha should have been. I thought Jari was slow to play it. Jari was deep in his crease, didn't move over to the left post well. And so just like 4 bad plays, boom, 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 in a microsecond, put the puck in the back of their own net. Those are the things that, a better team doesn't do. So when McGroarty comes back, McGroarty's not going to loop at the top of the zone. Maybe you do put him with Malkin. Maybe you put him with Ben Kindle. There are some decisions to be made, and I cannot say with any confidence I know what those decisions or the results of those decisions will be. I know the choices. I know what you want. I know what I would do. I don't know what they will do. Any truth to the rumor of Lemieux and the Hoffman group getting cozy? Other than the report that there was a member of the Hoffman family in Mario's luxury box the other night, do you read into that? I'm sure a lot of you are like, oh my God, it's happening. It's happening. The Hoffmans and Mario are going to partner. If you haven't noticed, it's October 15th. The Penguins lose the land in 6 days. To the best of my knowledge, they have not yet filed for an extension on that land. What I had heard last week was the talk had slowed. The heavy lifting was being done. So the momentum had sort of stopped while the accountants just did all of their work. If it's true that a member of the Hoffman family was in the box, that would be a good sign that things are progressing. But what to read into that? It could be, hey, you want to meet Mario? I mean, he is kind of even a token owner of the team. He's also a freaking legend. If you like hockey a little bit, you're like, yeah, can I go meet Mario? Yeah, easy peasy. Brandon Richter. Dan, you think Dubas made a mistake spending assets on guys like Novak and Tomasino? Mistake? No. I mean, Tomasino cost a 4th-round pick. That's a great chance to take. If you feel like you can get more out of the guy, that's 4th-rounder. Please do that 7 days a week, twice on Sunday. Now, Novak is a little bit more of a complicated question because there's a lot more of a book on him. And there was the Luke Shen aspect of that trade as well. So if you want to look at it in one aspect, the Penguins gave up Michael Bunting, kind of a 20-goal scorer, a bit maddening to the coaches. And in return, they got Novak and a 2nd-round pick. I suppose that's not a terrible trade. Or is it a 2nd and 3rd-round pick? I don't. No, they only got a 2nd for Luke Shen. Maybe it was a distant 3rd-rounder. Regardless, that trade is more of a wash. I think if you're trying to win now, Michael Bunting would be the player you wanted, but they got some future assets out of the deal. I don't think they were keen on keeping Michael Bunting long term. So, mistake, no. But Brandon continues, they were clearly outplayed for roster spots by guys like Bros and Avery Hayes, and yet they're creating a logjam. On that, Brandon, you and I agree. Hagan says, I think Clifton was a great addition to the defensive, to the blue line. With that physicality, but if there's any space for Brunick, I'd rather that kid. Yeah, that was a weird trade, man. I didn't understand it. Connor Timmins to Buffalo for Clifton and a 2nd-rounder. I guess it was for the 2nd-rounder, and you just kind of, and Connor Clifton sort of gets just lost in the shuffle. That is one thing. Maybe I'm sentimental, or I don't know what the right word would be. I don't like when players get used or kind of just treated like objects, commodities. Obviously, acquiring Connor Clifton when you had Harrison Brunick was not ideal. But I suppose a fourth right-handed defenseman was okay. But then going out and getting Matt Dumba, now you've got 5 and 6. So that part, yeah, that's a little. That's the stuff. Yeah, you'd like to see Clifton in the lineup. All right, let's go back. Pogan. Been a Pens fan my whole life, but never this in-depth to watch external content. Well, welcome aboard, man. I'll take your last question. Any thoughts on Philip Hollander, Koivunen, and Kindle line? I like the effort from Hollander on the fourth line, but he works better with Kindle, in your opinion. Guys, I hate to do this. I know that Hollander is becoming a little bit of a patron saint. I know that you're all very anxious to see Philip Hollander, pop 25 goals like he did in Sweden and kind of think he's got a high ceiling. Truth of the matter is he doesn't have a high ceiling in the NHL. Okay? He's not bad. I'm not saying he's a bad player, not worthy of NHL ice. Not what I'm saying. I'm saying there's a giant canyon of nuance here. Where Hollander is a third and fourth liner. He's a 10-goal guy who plays responsible defensively. He can add some offense to a third or fourth line, but he's not going to be a big, impactful guy. So, he's more than just a guy, right? Like last night, they introduced Jansen Harkins for the Anaheim Ducks home open. Jansen was a heck of a nice guy, had some, had speed and some physicality and so on and so forth, but he's just a guy. You look everywhere he's been, his production is immediately replaced, a Greg McKegg sort of type. Just, guys who have a career in the NHL, but their war value is 0. Hollander is not a 0, is not a war factor of 0, but he's not a 10 either. So just kind of keep that in mind. JR, the next games are the Kings, Sharks, Canucks, Panthers, Blue Jackets, and the Blues. Chances they are 500 after 10 games. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't on the grand scheme of things. Do I think they're going to win some of those games? Yeah. I have no idea who this team is yet. I know they're spunky. I know they've got energy. I know they've got some heart. But they've also got horrible flaws, and they haven't yet gelled. So I have no idea what the next 6 games brings. Not even a little bit of a clue. I wish I could tell you. I make a wise crack on Tuesday that Justin Brazeau's not going to score every game, and then he goes out and scores a minute 2 into the game. That's kind of fun to see. But the reality is Justin Brazeau is not going to score 30 or 40 goals. And Anthony Mantha has to start playing quicker. I know his game is skill and slowing it down. He's got to be quicker. That goal he scored last night was pure luck, born of him playing too slowly. He's got to be quicker with the puck. There's no two ways about it. You can see the skill, the size and the skill. I mean, he's just got to be faster. Uncle D, do you think they bring up some players for the bottom 6? Not too high on Tomasino, Novak. I guess I've been through that, Uncle Deebs. It's going to take a minute. You're going to let those players have their runway. And Novak making $3.5 million, I don't foresee them sending him down. He would have to do absolutely nothing for a couple of months before that becomes a consideration. Go back to Guy. Big fan of Lizotte. Finally, somebody in Pittsburgh understands what Blake Lizotte brings to the table. Guy, I should know with a Canadian name like that, you would get it. Anyway, big fan of Lizotte. Wasn't a fan of Dewar before the season, but he is a disturber. I think you got to leave them in and night out. Yeah, those two, you wish they were like 6 inches taller and 20 pounds heavier. Maybe they do too. But yeah, they just get after it. And the speed and tenacity they bring is a good spark plug for the rest of the lineup. John Powell, how long are we going to throw Jari out there? Nothing has changed with him, clearly. Sergei Murashov is our best goalie. Why not put him out there? What exactly do we have to lose? Oh, John. Oh, John, you're going to give me an ice cream headache. I understand the Jari point, and yeah, he has to be better. But then you bring in Murashov. What do we have to lose? Everything, John. You have everything to lose if you bring Murashov to the show too quickly. Everything. You can crush a goalie's a forward you can bring to the show a little too quickly. He'll figure it out, or he won't feel terrible. Too terrible. He'll go back down to the AHL, score some goals, and feel better. A goalie can be exposed and crushed, and surely you've seen too many goaltenders. I think housekeeping is making the rounds. I'm not sure if they're going to stop at my room or not. I do need towels. So if she knocks on my door, I will have to end the chat or take a moment. Anyway, you can lose everything. You can kill his career by bringing him to the show too quickly. He will be the best. I made the analogy in print last week. If you pull a pizza out of the oven too soon, you don't have pizza. You just have a mess. And that's all that it would be. All right, appreciate you, Cal. Cal's got to go. It is over an hour. Boy, an hour flies by. I'll take, Michael Thompson chiming in late. Yo, Dan, how am I doing? I'm a little okay. I'm going to be honest. I like the way they have made Erik Karlsson play the style he's very good at. I also feel like Muse has our defense playing a little bit like the Hurricanes. There's a little bit of a deal, yeah, where he has unleashed the defenseman. Cycling all the way back to the beginning of the show, maybe this is a perfect place to end. It's a perfect circumference here. In talking about some of the mistakes that Dubas made, he didn't necessarily bring in players who are defensively inclined. You know, like Anthony Mantha. Playing well. I'm not taking that away from him, but that signing to me still is like, wait, why? When you had McGroarty and Koivu and Bros. That was still kind of a weird one to me. But on defense as well. Dan Muse going with the 1-1-3 attack, which is a bit unique. Unleashing the defenseman, but you're unleashing a rookie, Chris Letang, who is struggling, Erik Karlsson, who I don't know how you want to classify Erik Karlsson's game. It can be brilliant and it can be brutal, and it can be both on the same shift. Wotherspoon is showing a solidness to his game, and Caleb Jones has had that brilliant and brutal up and down. Maybe not so brilliant. I don't want to oversell, but he's had really good moments, and then he's had some moments. So those are the things that I suppose the players were not necessarily brought in to win, but because Dubas wanted to give them a chance, see what stuck, get some trade chips. And that's Dubas's game. Dan Muse has a whole different game where he's trying to win games. So there is that sort of incongruity. Erik Karlsson has played significantly better to start this season. Is it because he wants to be on Team Sweden? Whatever it is, he's played much better. Okay, kids. I suppose the sound held up. That's kind of awesome. And I'm going to wrap it up after hour 5. Thank you. Good night, and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Just got a new puppy or kitten? Congrats! But also, yikes. Between crates, beds, toys, treats, and those first few vet visits, you've probably already dropped a small fortune, which is where Lemonade Pet Insurance comes in. It helps cover vet costs so you can focus on what's best for your new pet. The coverage is customizable, sign-up is quick and easy, and your claims are handled in as little as 3 seconds. Pro tip, Lemonade offers a package specifically for puppies and kittens. Get a quote at lemonade.com/pet. Your future self will thank you. Your pet won't. They don't know what insurance is.